As people continue to point out that automation can one day wipe out millions of American jobs, all while the wealth gap continues to widen, we have the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, the talk of universal basic income is something that I think is here to stay. It was first brought up during the 2020 election with Andrew Yang. It wasn't enough to help him win the presidential nomination, but he succeeded in getting the talking point out there. And the reason why I think it's something that's here to stay is because people are very warm to the idea of government providing money to its citizens because of all the stimulus and the bailouts that happened over the previous year. A generic definition of universal basic income would be that the government is able to provide for its citizens a basic standard of living. So I believe Andrew Yang pointed out when he was running for president, he wanted the government to provide $1,000 a month to, I believe it was all residents or citizens that were 18 years of age or older. Now, what I'm going to walk through today is really how I feel about universal basic income, and I'll give you a little sneak preview. I'm not very warm to it. The first reason why I'm not a huge fan of universal basic income is because I'm always super skeptical of what you give government in terms of power and then what the government can then do with said power. So while it sounds like it could be sincere, I always look at it as what could be an unintended consequence. So in this case, I can easily see certain people being in government and then trying to withhold that particular pay from someone who might have an opposing viewpoint. So for example, let's say the person that's in the White House or whoever's controlling the Senate, the House and whatnot, say they don't like people talking out against what they say. Well, I think very easily they can then make a referendum to this universal basic income and then say, well, anybody that violates these particular rules, they're going to have to cut their pay or something along those lines. And you might say, dude, you're totally fear-mongering right now. But you need to understand, when you hand over that much power to the federal government, it really has no bounds to its limitations. So you might say I'm fear-mongering, but never say never, because you never know what governments can truly do, especially when they have too much power. Another thing you have to ask yourself with universal basic income or people talking about stimulus or government programs is, I just feel it's another talking point so that way certain people running for office can buy votes. It's no secret that people in America today love hearing about how someone in power can give them free stuff. Free healthcare, free education, and now we're talking about potentially free money. I just look at that as a super easy way to just be like, okay, I don't even have to debate the other person on their ideas. I could just say, you vote for me, I'm going to find a way to give you more free money. And I think that really has consequences because that delegitimizes our electoral process. Just my opinion. You can let me know if you disagree with me. Another reason why I'm not very warm to the idea of universal basic income is because to me, it's inherently un-American. And before you go, just spam me in the comments and say, oh, this is just another person trying to stand behind the flag and patriotism and, oh, America. No, the reason why I say it's un-American is because to me, being an American means you go out and you get your own. You work hard, you might have to work those long weeks, but you get your check at the end of the week, and that's what you have to show, because you can then say, hey, this check shows how I went out, I created, I innovated, I solved problems, whatever it was. So if we're going to now take away the incentive for people to work, or we're going to take money from one group of people and now just give it to another group just because they're, well, living in America, to me, that undermines an old American value or an old American tradition of having to go out and make something of yourself. Another thing that I feel people miss in terms of whether it's not only universal basic income, but the idea of having a job is a job provides more than just an income. You see, in my opinion, a job helps you learn so much about yourself. It helps you to learn how to deal with adversity. It gives you that sense of accomplishment. So I was mentioning before, when you work that long week and you come home from work on a Friday and you have that paycheck. And that paycheck, when you get that, there's no other feeling like it. When you say, man, so much went into this. You know, maybe I had to work a long shift and I had a truck route up and down, 280 or something like that. Or maybe you're a carpenter and you had to, have some sort of framing done and the house was giving you all sorts of problems, whatever it was, right? I can't speak for whatever your particular job is, but you might know the certain feeling of working that long week. And then when you get that check, you have that sense of accomplishment. And before you even get that check, just being able to look back on your drive home from when your shift ends, you can say, man, I accomplished so much today. So to me, that feeling itself is something that only a job can provide. So taking that away, I think we're going to have an unintended consequence that people are now going to feel like they have no sense of meaning. And what are people going to do with themselves if they don't need to work because now they have that universal basic income? To me, removing that sense of accomplishment, I think it might have some unintended consequences. Let me know if you think differently. The last reason that I'm not very warm to universal basic income is because to me, it's just another one of those talking points where people try to create that perfect society. And the reason why I use it in quotations is because if you've ever kind of read about utopias, or you've read about in the past of people trying to make utopias, it never really works out. And to me, it's trying to remove the sharp edges in life. Because I can't deny, and I've certainly mentioned in other videos, how people start off differently on the economic ladder, and maybe they have different education levels, they have different experiences, so their lives are harder than other people's lives right now. So I get it why the whole idea of universal basic income appeals to them, because they look at it as a way for them to move up in terms of the economic ladder. But by removing the hardship that you have to go through and how people have to find a way to overcome adversity, I think that's going to do more harm than good. Because there's really nothing like someone who has been able to say that they've sailed rough seas. Okay, I want you to imagine if you're a captain of a ship, all right? If you're sailing in easy oceans, right, and there's never any waves, there's never any wind, you can really say, man, life's easy, I'm good to go. But what happens when that storm comes? If you've never had sort of that training, that experience to when life throws something at you and you're just totally faced with, a hard task, if you've never been put in that particular position, you're going to fail miserably when that comes to you. So that's why I feel that having that job and having to accomplish something, that sets you up for future success in life. And kind of the last thing I'll end with is, if the government, or if you always want the government to help you, what happens when adversity comes to you and the government can't help you, but because they've removed all the sharp edges in life, you can't even help yourself? What's going to happen then? So that's why I'm very opposed to the idea of universal basic income. But you can let me know if you think differently. Do you feel because of automation around the corner, it's essential? Do you think that universal basic income is a way that we can redistribute wealth and we can close that wealth gap that continues to widen? Let me know your opinion. But as always, I appreciate you sticking through the video, and I hope you'll consider checking out some more sometime soon.